All we have is today. That's what I always tell people. All we have is today. No, we have less than that. All we have is now. All right, it's Monday. Welcome to the Chazz Palminteri Show. Today, we have a new, should I say, a new show, John?
Segment.
No. A new what?
New segment.
A new segment. Because we've been getting so many questions. If you have questions that you want to talk to me about, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Facebook, or you can go to chazzpalminterishow@gmail.com. But we've been getting so many messages where they say, Chazz, we love your guests, but we want to hear you do some solos. Right, John?
That's what they said.
And I said, well, what do you want to, I don't know. Okay, great. But what do you want to talk about? So a lot of them are all about life. A lot of them about the show business. So I'm going to call this segment on the Chazz Palminteri Show, Life and Other Shit. You know,
Love it.
Whatever you want to talk about, you send me the questions. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you about my one-man show traveling all over the country, the national tour. You go to chazzpalminteri.net. And John, where am I going to be?
September 14th, you're going to be in Munhall, Pennsylvania at the Carnegie Homestead Music Hall. September 27th, you're going to be in New Buffalo, Michigan at the Silver Creek Four Winds Casino. September 28th, you're going to be in Detroit, Michigan at the Fisher Theater. And October 2nd, you're going to be in Indianapolis at the Murat Theater.
Oh, yeah. That's just the next month or so. We are booked till 2025, over 2025. So there is a city near you that you can see the one-man show that started it all, the show that, obviously, Robert De Niro saw and gave me my big break. Don't forget my cigars, my boutique cigars made by the great cigar maker, Paul DeSilvio. We partnered with Epic Cigars. Paul put the blend together, and it is voted number 8 in the top 10 cigars of the year. Look it up on Google if you don't believe me. Okay, I'm not just saying any kind of bullshit here. Now, if you want to get the cigars, you go to
LCGcigars.com.
LCGcigars.com. You got it up on there, John?
Yep, I do. La Casa Grande Cigars, LCG.
La Casa Grande Cigars. Also, my wine. Oh, my God. My wine voted one of the top Cabernets. Moderately priced, very moderately. And great Cabernet wine called Chazz Palminteri. Pick it up. You'll love it. It's great. So, John, the new segment of the Chazz Palminteri Show, Life and Other Shit. So, what is the first question that we got?
So we put out a poll yesterday asking what people wanted to hear about. And we said that we'd give a shout out to some of the people whose questions that we'd use. So the first question comes from Greg Converse, and he said, Ghosts. The ghost of your friend's father that you saw at your friend's restaurant. I saw that episode of Celebrity Ghost Stories. Can you please talk about that?
Celebrity Ghost Stories. I did that, oh God, I don't know, 10 years ago maybe more. I believe in the spiritual world. I believe in ghosts. I believe in all that stuff. So they asked me, would you like to come on the show? And I said, well, did you ever see a ghost? And I said, well, a ghost, a spirit, I don't know. What could I say, It was something. And they said, tell us. And I told them, and they said, you got to be on the show. What happened was, and you can see the show Celebrity Ghost Stories. I was at my friend's place, my friend Dominic Broccoli, that's his name, broccoli like the vegetable, that's what he always says. Broccoli like the vegetable. And he was closing the place was closed, basically. He was selling it, he was depressed, he didn't know if he was making the right decision. So one day I was there with him and the place was closed. It was night. And we were talking, and he was telling me the story, and I said, okay, and I said, look, his father passed away years ago from that. And we talked, and then he went upstairs, and I was there, sitting there alone downstairs. Now, I was in the cellar, but when you say cellar, it was like the wine cellar. It was quiet, it was dark. And all of a sudden, this gentleman walked by, and I sort of kind of hazy, and the only thing I remember, his shoes were sparkling, and I was like, "Whoa, hold on!" I said, "You're going the wrong way." I thought some people were upstairs and now they were leaving, but he was going the wrong way. And I said, "Oh," and then he kept walking. So I said, "You know, okay." And it was something about it's okay. He said, "No, no, it's okay. Tell him it's okay." And I was like, "Tell what? Tell who? Dominic? It's okay." So and he kept going. He was clearing his throat. I said, "What the fuck?" So Dominic comes down about 20 minutes later. And I said, "Where the hell were you?" He goes, "No, I had to finish up downstairs." And he goes, I said, "Who was the guy that came down?" He goes, "What guy?" He goes, "Nobody's in the restaurant." I said, "Dom, I could have swore it was kind of hazy, but I saw a guy all the way in the end there walking up the steps." He said, "Well, you can't go out that way. That door's locked." I said, "Look, I'm not crazy, man. I saw somebody walk up the steps there, bro." And he said, "Nobody could walk up the steps." I said, "There was a guy walking up the steps with a suit on." And he goes, he kept clearing his throat. Well, he goes pale. I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "My father did that all the time." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "My father used to walk around going," and we started talking, and I said, "Well," he said, "Tell my," no, he goes, "Tell him it's okay. It's okay." And we took it, and he started crying, and I'm like bewildered. I don't know what to say. And I said, he said, "Did you see really clearly?" I never met his father in person because his father died 20 years from, maybe even more from that day, 25 years. He showed me a photo of him at the end of this. And I said, "I can't swear that was him, but that looks just like him, to be honest with you." And I said, "Tell me things." I said, his shoes were sparkling. And he said his father was a fanatic about having shine shoes. And I said, "And your dad said it's okay. So I think it's going to be okay." And I freaked out, and I was a little weird. And he freaked out. And I don't know how to explain that, folks. I don't know how to explain that. I don't know. And he did sell the restaurant, and he put a IHOP in there on the corner of Valentin Avenue and Boston Post Road, and it's hugely successful. And he built 4 more IHOPs in the Bronx, and he's one of the biggest. He's the biggest IHOP guy in the Bronx. He's the only IHOP guy in the Bronx. And I think that thing from his father was. I mean, look, people talk about stuff like this, and a lot of people out there saying you're full of shit. This never happened, and that's okay to say that. I probably would say the same thing as you, but it happened. It was hazy, and I saw this guy kind of go by in the way down the end, and I said, "Hey, hey." I don't know, but that was the celebrity ghost story. So my only thing is to my friend Dominic. Dominic, he's dead. 40 years. It's over. Gene, your mom, he's gone. Stop it. No, I always tell him that. It's over. Stop bringing this up. He always tells that story.
That's so crazy. That gave me chills.
I understand how people cannot believe that because I always say to myself, well, did he tell you a story about it and you dreamt it? Or is this possible? And I don't know. But Gino, the original, I mean, his father, Gino, was a great businessman. And Dominic, who a lot of people thought that the place was going to close when he took it over, he just made it bigger and it thrived even bigger. Broccoli's a great businessman. Obviously, now he's a very big success. So if I come to you for money, make sure you give it to me, Dominic. God bless you, Dom. What else here? What other questions we got?
All right, the next one comes from John Seib, and
John
it's
who?
Seib, Seib, and it says some of the ways in which New York City has changed over your career, and some of the ways that it remains the same.
New York City.
New York City wants to get your thoughts on it then and now.
Well, I mean, if you talk about when I started, I mean, way back in the 70s, New York was like a cesspool down there. There was like porno and there's some character put to it, I gotta say. A lot of, wackos walking around. It's pretty crazy. And then I went through the Disney stage where it just became like Disneyland. It cleaned up. And now it was better. When I first started, it was in the 80s. It was starting to get cleaned up. And then we had some good mayors come in and really, did the right thing and made Giuliani and Bloomberg really got it going. And now, the city's getting, past few years, it's gotten a little crazy, Look, I always say this, I never talk about politics. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm just kind of a common sense guy, and my heart goes out to anybody who's trying to get a better life. But you can't have a policy where you open borders and give everybody everything because, I just believe it'll never last. There's a reason why we have legal immigration because they come in dribs and drabs and numbers where we could sustain that and try to help people. But when you get 10 million people coming into the country, it's just something has to suffer. So, again, I like to go back to legal immigration, and that's fine. And I think that's the right way to do it. So, but New York is, I love New York and I live here and it's a great city and I'm sure we'll find a way to get through this and it'll be New York, New York. So I'm not worried about it.
All right, next one comes from William Levy, and he says, what are some classic cars that you like and what's some of your favorite music from the 50s?
Classic cars that I like? My friend, that was my friend Nicky Red from the neighborhood. Now, Nicky Red, his last name was Reganese. I think I could say it. Yeah, he's a, stand-up guy. And I never forgot it. I used to drive this 1968 Buick Riviera. It was the first time they came out with that. I'll never forget it. It was like the back, the window. And I walked by and I stared at it and I just stared at it. And it was parked right in front of the candy store. They called him Eddie the Jew because he was the only Jewish guy who had a candy. And I know back then you could say that. They used to go, yeah, Eddie the Jew, the candy store. And he had his car. We were going in and have 8 creams and soda, and it was great. And I would see Nicky Red's car parked outside. It was like 2-tone beige, and oh my God, it was absolutely stunning. And that was a car I never forgot. I loved the 57 Thunderbird. That was a great car. Remember, Dion had that. Dion was a lot older, and he would drive by, and that was a great car, 57 Thunderbird. I'm thinking of some of the old cars. I remember being a young kid and I saw this, what was that? I don't know, 5 or something, 6. And I saw this car right in front. It was a Oldsmobile Starfire with a chrome going across. And my father was holding me. I said, Dad, what kind of car is that? He said, it's an Oldsmobile Starfire. And I remember the character in Bronx Tale, Sonny's car, 1968 Cadillac. That was pretty hot. Red, like the one in Bronx Tale, in the Bronx Tale.
What do you say? Fire engine red?
Fire engine red. Well, in the movie it was different, but in real life it was fire engine red, white leather interior, white spoke wheels, not too gaudy, as they say. And that was a beautiful car. But those are some of the and I love I remember when William Morris, great story, when I wasn't sure who I was going to sign with in 1989, and William Morris really was going after me to sign with him. And I was late. I told the story, but not to be boring, but I'll tell it quickly. I was broke, and I had a 1972 Honda Civic, and this was 1989, and I had a pinhole, maybe a little more than a pinhole hole in the radiator, and it would leak water. So every 3-4 days, I had to fill it up because it got low and overheated. And one time it overheated, and I couldn't make the meeting down to William Morris. And I called them up, and I said, look, I can't be there. And they said, why? They thought I signed with somebody else. And I said, no. Because Bronx Tale was this huge hit there, and they wanted to represent me because everybody wanted it, but they didn't want me. You know the story. And I said, no, my car overheated. And they said, well, wait, we'll get right back to you. And about an hour later, a guy knocks on my door. I open the door, and this guy goes, you Chazz Palminteri? I said, yeah. He said, come with me. And in the parking lot was a brand new 1989 black saddle interior Eldorado. And they said, William Morris got this for you. Don't be late for the meeting. Wow. I mean, that's some juice, man. That was like, they didn't even sign me, and they got me. They leased it for me for 2 years. And I called them and I said, yeah, but I didn't sign with you yet. And it was Lee Cohen and Fred Westheimer. And they said, no, it's okay. We believe in you. And we think it's going to be a huge success movie. And I ended up signing with them. And
do you think that was part of the reason why you ended up signing with them?
that was a part of it. I mean,
or do you just think they were the right choice?
They were the right choice because they really, really wanted me to the point of insanity. I mean, so did there were 2 other great agencies. There was ICM and there was CAA, who are great, great agencies. And I was in a dilemma between all 3, who to sign with. And I ended up signing with them because I went with the agency that really wanted me more than anybody. I figured I'd go with them, and it was a great decision. I'm still with them.
Yeah, it makes sense. They want you for you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question's from Anna S.
Anna
S.
S.
It's somebody that we both know. She goes to a lot of your shows and stuff like that, but she asked, would you ever interview a millennial to discuss social issues? It's an interesting question.
That's an interesting question. Well, when you say social issues, are you talking about politics?
I don't know. Just as social issues.
Social issues, like what?
Maybe, I'm assuming politics.
Well, there has to be some politics in there. A millennium. Is that my son?
Yeah, it's Dante's age.
That's Dante's age. Well, I've interviewed Dante a few times. But I think it's a good point. And Anna, I think that's, I think it's a good idea. I like to do an interview with my daughter. Now, my daughter's what, Gen Z?
Yeah, she's a different story.
She's Gen Z, right?
She's Gen Z, yep.
Yeah, my daughter's Gen Z. She's in a play, and in Michigan now she's going to be in a movie. I think that would be interesting. My daughter would be very interesting. Yeah, oh yeah.
She has her opinions. I love it,
She's very strong. So is my son. Both of them have strong opinions.
but they're very different.
Very different. My son is in the middle, and again, he doesn't talk, but he's liberal, but kind of more in the middle. My daughter is more left, and we talk and discuss things about life. Because I'm in the middle, I'm pro-choice, and a lot of things. So she likes that, but on some issues, I'm a little more to the right. So we go back and forth, her and I, and that would be interesting. Maybe have them both on.
That would be fun. We just got to get her on in general.
Yeah, all three of them have both of them, and then we go back. Oh my God, that would be.
That's going to be chaos, but it's going to be
That
great.
might be chaos. Well, they know, then they know their dad is. I'm not a Republican, like I said. I'm not a Democrat. I'm very common sense, and I keep my business to myself.
All right, ready for the next one?
Yeah,
Next one comes from Connor Richard.
Connor
Richard.
Richards.
And says the difference between perception and reality.
Yeah.
He just wants to know what your idea between the difference of perception and reality is.
As opposed to what? I mean, that I would like to hear that. Perception and reality. Well, the perception is a perception of money, let's say. Perception of money makes you happy. You look at it and you say, oh my God, that would be great. The reality is that, yeah, money does make, I'm just kidding. No, the reality is money doesn't make you happy. It makes you comfortable. And by being comfortable, you feel more at ease with your life. Do you want to state that as happiness? I don't think so. Happiness is things that you accomplished. Having beautiful children and marrying a good woman, and that's happiness. That brings you happiness. Money brings you being comfortable, able to help people. Money's like a tool. I always say that money makes good people better and bad people worse. If you became rich and you became an asshole, my logic is you were always an asshole. Now you're just a rich asshole. Now you're a famous asshole. So what's the big deal? So the perception is you think money will make you happy, but go to Beverly Hills. There's a lot of homes for sale there of people who are getting divorced. So obviously, the perception is money makes you happy, but it doesn't. And I know people out there are saying, why is it always the people with money say this? Well, because they can compare. That's why. Because they've been broke and they've been rich. So is being rich better? Yeah. Yeah, it's better. I'm not saying it's not, but it doesn't make you happy, bro. It really, really doesn't. And a lot of times, something in the mind is much more powerful than something in your hand. You could think, you know how it is. You buy, oh, I got to have that Corvette. I got to have that Corvette. I always wanted a red Corvette. Never had one because never could afford one, obviously. Then finally I bought this red, souped up, incredible, brand new Corvette. Oh, I looked at it every day for a week. Then 2 weeks, I took it out. I drive around, go on country roads and put it away. And then after 2 or 3 months, I was like, I love the car. Don't get me wrong. It's a great car. But if I was going on a long trip, I wanted to take one of my other cars where it was more comfortable. The Corvette was comfortable, but it was loud. It was fast. And it was just 2 seats. So I only took it out on the weekend once in a while. And then after a while, I said, you know what? Paid all this money for this thing. And all right, I'm done with it. I had my red Corvette. But in my mind, before I got it, it was like, I gotta have that Corvette. And then when I did get it, it wasn't as great as I thought it would be. But it was great. I'm not saying it wasn't great. It was great. Okay.
Okay, here's a good one from Rick Byrne. It says, "Who was the most feared guy in your neighborhood in the '60s?"
The most feared guy in my neighborhood in the 60s. Well, the toughest guy, I really can't mention his name. But he was.
We'll move on.
And the people who from my neighborhood who are out there, he was the toughest guy. He was the toughest guy I ever saw. I have to be honest with you. I never seen anybody that tough. I never heard of anybody that tough. He was the toughest guy. And for those of you who came from my neighborhood, you know who I'm talking about. There's not even anybody close to number two. I mean, it was him, and then it was everybody else. But in all due respect to him, I'd rather not mention his name.
I respect that. Next one, Carol Rose. It says, "How do we teach the youth and millennials old school values, morals, and it ain't all about them, especially in the workplace?"
Yeah. Well, I think that comes from the parents. How do you teach them old school values? They learn that from watching their parents. If their parents have old school values, then they will have old school values. Look, people who have children, you don't realize that the way children learn is from the parents. You are a mirror to them. They see you and they know how to act in the world. If a father abuses his wife, usually the son will do the same. If the wife abuses the husband, usually the daughter will do the same. They learn from the parents. So I always tell people, everything you do, everything you say in front of your kids, be aware, because that is their memory for life. Think about that. Think about things you remember about your childhood. Something your father said or did that was hurtful or loving, either one, or your mother, something that she did for you that was loving or hurtful. You remember that. I remember talking to this girl once. She was a hair designer on a movie I did. And she was like 38 years old. And we were just talking about childhood and growing up. And she started talking about her mother and father were divorced when she was very young. She said she remembers sitting on a bench in front of her house, waiting for the bus. Her father was coming and she was all dressed up in her birthday dress. She was 6 or 7, waiting for her father to take her out for her birthday. They were divorced, so it was his time to come and pick her up. She's telling the story. She's 38, so this is 31 years ago. And she starts crying because her father never came. And he called up later and told his wife that he was busy and he couldn't get there. But she remembered that story and told it to us in the trailer and was crying. So when you do something or you say something to your children that's hurtful, you better be aware of that, because that is their memory for life. All the parents out there, Be careful. Be close to your children. Hold your kids. Tell them you love them. I mean, you never know. Not to be morbid here. I mean, my son now is, 27, and my daughter's 20. She'll be 22. My wife and I have been married 30 years. And I remember reading something that you never know when it's going to be your last time that you see them, you smell them, you hug them, you kiss them. So every time I see my children, my son lives in Beverly Hills, my daughter, she lives in the city. So every time they come over, I see them. And I hug them, and my wife does the same. I tell them how much I love them, and they tell me they love me. And when I'm on the phone with them, I say, I love you, and they say, I love you, Dad. And I hug them. And I close my eyes, and I just squeeze them. Because life is tenuous. Is that the word, tenuous? Life is fragile. I don't know, all we have is today. That's what I always tell people. All we have is today. No, we have less than that. All we have is now. Now, all we have is the now. Right now, I know I got this right now. I am here in my studio with my producer and filmmaker John over there. And that's what we got right now. That's it. When I say goodbye, then we got that. And that's what you have right now. So cherish that moment. I know it's a cliche. Oh, live today like it was the last day of your life. You know what? How would you feel if somebody really told you that? If somebody told you, hey, buddy, sweetheart, you got 24 hours to live. How would you act? Seriously, how would you act? You would have all your family there. You would cry, but you would hug them. You would kiss them. You would tell them the great things about growing up with them and how much you love them. So there's something to be said for that. I tell my kids all the time, you okay, everything? My wife made a sign for me, and it's up in my daughter's apartment, and so is my son. And it's just 4 words. And it says, stay calm, call Dad. That's what it says. That's what a father is supposed to do. Of course, the mother too. But to me, that's what a father has to do. And I'm talking about all the fathers out there who have kids. Even if you don't have a good relationship with your children, even if you don't have a good relationship with your ex-wife, even if you don't have a good relationship with your mother-in-law and your father-in-law, you fathered those kids. And people give me slack on this. They give me, a lot of, they punch back at me on this. It is your responsibility to take care of them. Even if they don't appreciate it. I'll even go as far as to say, even if they don't love you. You are a father. And a father has to take care of the children he brought into this world. That is your responsibility. If you are the biggest success in the world, a billionaire, world famous for inventions or movies, but you are a failure as a father, I believe you are a failure in life. That, to me, is the most important thing. Trust in God and be a good father. This is Chazz Palminteri. This is our new segment, Life and Other Shit. So send your questions to my Instagram, to my Facebook, or to my Chazz Palminteri show at gmail.com. I enjoy riffing on your questions. God bless. See you next week. And don't forget, go to chazzpalminteri.net for the One Man Show.